Our third Hall of Fame inductee tonight, the great shot putter and all-around athlete, Nick DeNitto. In 1953, Nick DeNitto's family moved to Watertown, and Watertown had one of its greatest athletes. Coming under the eye of the football program and also the eye of the fabled track coach, Bob Gleason. A weightlifter and a gifted all-around athlete, Nick was not only strong, as his shot put records would indicate, but also fast. A 100-yard dash man, a 300-yard dash man, ran a leg on the mile relay team. Shot put is one of the toughest branches of athletic competition. It's a lonely battle of strength and technique. But Nick followed a great tradition here of shot putters at Watertown High School. Ron Guitar, Dave Foley, Gene Renzi, Larry Caffarella, Carl Johnson. But he would soon surpass them all. Nick seemed to break records every time he threw the shot. In January of 1957, coached by Larry Caffarella, he broke Caffarella's 1952 state record throw by 2 feet. A week later, he added another 2 feet to the record, running it to 55, 4.5 inches, a mark that would stand for 10 years. The press called him the schoolboy howitzer. To go on to tally Nick's wins and his achievement would run page after page, but I'd like to give you some highlights. Between the shot put and the relay, Nick won more than a half a dozen state titles, league medals, and setting state records in both the relay and the shot put. In 1956, he placed 6th of the National Schoolboy Championships in New York, and the next year won the New England Championships in the shot put. At the Brown University Schoolboy meet, he ran in the 2:20 in a record time, just 2 seconds off the contemporary world mark. He was a participant in both indoor and outdoor state championships teams, profiled by Globe sports writer Ralph Colson as some of the best track teams seen in 40 years. Nick went on to Boston University as a track man and also returned to the football field. Played football as well at Watertown High School. After his college career was interrupted by a year of active duty in the Navy following the Berlin crisis, spent on the North Sea on a destroyer, Nick returned to Boston University, rejoined the varsity football team as a tight end and defensive end, and threw the shot and the javelin for the track team. Graduated in 1964 with a Bachelor of Science degree in business management. Now works for the New England Electric System companies and still participates in sports. He has been involved for over 20 years with the Merrimack Valley YMCA as a volunteer instructor for fitness and weight training. He also is a participant in senior athletic competition. In the Massachusetts Senior Games in 1994, he medaled in 4 events and qualified for the 1995 National Senior Games in San Antonio. There in May, his skills were still very much intact as he gained a bronze medal in a shot put competition that included former national decathletes. He's in training now for the 1997 Senior Olympics in Phoenix. I just will relate a short story, and Nick may have forgotten this. When he was a high school football player, I was a water boy on the football team. Little guy who idolized these guys and particularly idolized Nick DeNitto. And I read that story to you as part of his leaving Boston University and going into the Berlin crisis. And one of the thrills of my life that I never told him, but it was because when you meet a kid that you idolize as a guy you idolize a kid, it's something special. And I was playing football in 1963 for Rutgers University in New Brunswick, New Jersey. And at the end of the game, my idol came up to me, having played for BU, tapped me on the shoulder, shook my hands, and said, "Nice game, kid." And boy, I tell you, even at this age, it still makes me think very, very special of this guy. Ladies and gentlemen, one of Watertown's greatest all-around track and field performers, the great Nick DeNitto.
This is indeed an honor, and certainly unexpected. And if you can't hear me in the back, just hold up your hand. I don't want to shout into the mic. I was told I have 5 minutes, and I will use it judiciously. I think this is an honor, really, more than anything else, for the triumph of the human spirit, not only And those of us who compete, even now, but those who have competed years ago. It's not until many years go by until sometimes it's brought to the forefront. But with me, it was relatively easy, based on the neighborhood that I grew up on. You had to be strong and fast to stay out of trouble. So certain things came naturally. To a lot of people, a lot of the youth, things don't come that easy or easily. With me, coming from a blue-collar background, it was a means of getting an education, as is probably true for many of you here, or some at home, or some that are not in the presence here of all of you. It's meaningful because without the athletic prowess for those such as myself, we would not be here, we would not have gotten an education. Today there are many more opportunities and scholarships that were just not available. It's a different world today. My profession is that of a lawyer, and I want to thank the company's support represented here in table 11 by all the members that have been kind enough to give up their time on a Friday evening, and also the support for many years of my family here. They promised, I promised them I wouldn't introduce them individually, and they each have skills I'm sure that I could impress you with, and I promised I wouldn't do that. On a volunteer basis, yes, I've spent 20 years with the Y, but more recently, I have the privilege of being the president and chairman of the board of the Merrimack Valley YMCA, which is made up of 3 branches and is the largest public service organization in the Northeast, serving about 19,000 people. I went to a conference this past weekend of lay volunteers. It was a CEO-CVO conference, CVO being the Chief Volunteer Officer and CEO, that you know, Chief Executive Officer. I just want to share with you some numbers, and I want to get into your minds. If it's the one thing I can leave you with, is a few thoughts as to what you can do from here on in your families, in your place of business, whether you're an educator, a politician, a doctor, lawyer, plumber, candlestick maker, whatever. The human spirit has to be rekindled in many areas of our country and throughout the world. You have a major teen problem, particularly ages 10 to 15. Our organization is taking strides to make our facilities available and develop programming to get these kids interested in something other than action movies and videos. We have to get them together in unstructured as well as structured physical and non-physical activities before they kill each other off. We have to pay attention to the abuse that goes on in families. And if some of you caught some of the CNN news, in Los Angeles, there's a number of infants being left by their parents because supposedly they have to earn a living. The economy is running ahead. We sometimes get wrapped up in the process and forget how to manage. We have to learn not to manipulate, but to manage people. Allow them to grow and thrive. Don't hamper the human spirit. We have a collaborative effort in the Northeast YMCA, where I'm working with educational institutions and also with youth service organizations. We're getting double duty on the same services, the playing fields, the buildings, the teachers. There's no sense of reinventing the wheel. We have to share our resources. We're doing it with reorganization, with restructuring. All corporations and businesses are going through it. Unfortunately, those of us who are involved with that must make time to volunteer for youth services on a continuing basis, whether it be Little League, soccer, Booster Club football. We have all done it. We've all reaped the benefits of it. But it's more important now than ever. Leapfrogging ahead, one more minute. It's a bimodal curve. You have the teen group, and then you have the adult aging group. By the year 2015 to 2020, the group of 50 years of age or older will almost double. It'll go from 68 million to about 118 million. It's because of fitness, because of nutrition. Activities have to be developed for that group. You have more people retiring early. You got to bring the teens and that middle group together to share from the experience. We've got to maintain the human spirit. That human spirit is the light you have in your eyes, when you're excited, when the adrenaline flows. It's the emotion. It's the emotion that carries that torch in the Olympics. It's the emotion that flows here today. And what this is about is the triumph of the human spirit.